In this session, we're going to talk about adding and editing the Snapback Scan to the radar screen. So the Snapback Scan can be put on a radar screen, and I also have it loaded here on a chart. And this feature actually has more options than the Snapback study that can only be applied to charts. But let me go and show you. So if you want to add this to the radar screen, you can go here to Add Study. And of course, I already have it there just to save a little time with loading. But you can see here, it's the SDSI Snapback Scan. So to add that, all you would do is click over here, hit Add, and that would put it onto the radar screen. But I'm going to remove it because I don't want it on there twice. Also, if you need to make changes, you need to customize from here, you can hit Customize here, and then you can change settings. And we'll talk about the settings more in a subsequent video. But this is just to show you how to get this into your radar screen. So I'm going to cancel out of this. So you can see here that we have snapback pressure is listed, the chances of snapback being occurring, and we have one here that says probable. And then these are tied to colors. Green is pretty much in a normal state. Yellow, there's a slight chance. Red is a higher chance of snapping back, and the magenta is the most probable. And you can see that down here, and you can see that actually in this case we broke a couple demand bands, but price is now starting to retrace toward the mean. And this is the same study. So you can see here that I have, this is the Snapback Scan that's loaded on here. So if you want to make a change to just one asset, in order to do that, if you go up here to the top and you go to Studies, it's for all symbols. But let's say you've got different settings for a certain symbol. So in order to pick a specific symbol and make the changes for just that one symbol, you'll need to click in one of the three spaces underneath the Snapback Scan information. And you can see that it says Edit Scan for that symbol only. And then you could make your change if you wanted to change your moving average or one of the other attributes. That would be how you do that. So that's a little information about how to add the Snapback Scan to your radar screen and how to edit individual assets. In this segment, we're going to talk about how to enable the different pattern searches for the scan tool. So if we go into the scan tool, and I'm going to go ahead and edit for all symbols, you can see here that we have these unique settings to the scan tool, and you can actually search for a specific pattern. So you can see that you can, right now these are set to false, and these are single patterns. So looking for any occurrence of a drop-based rally, any occurrence of a rally-based rally, any occurrence of a rally-based drop, or a drop-based drop, you can actually look for a specific type of pattern that supports your trading strategy. And these are the single ones. So we'll just make a change here and just see what we find. We'll change this to true, and we'll see what shows up on our screen. So if we want to go edit studies, we can edit for all symbols, but I'm going to, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. We'll edit for all. And so we have these different single patterns that we can search for: a drop-based rally, a rally-based rally, a rally-based drop, or a drop-based stripe. So anywhere those would occur, the tool would flag those. I'm going to go ahead and turn these other patterns off just to simplify things. And you will notice that this section up here does not have any quotes because this is not controlled by any OSF files. And we'll be talking more about OSF files and how you can use those in a later video. So let's see what we got. So you can see right away here we have one on the Aussie dollar, so we'll just click that and let it load. Okay, so the Aussie dollar's come back and we're going to be looking for a pattern on 9/28 at 2:30 a.m. And remember, we're looking for a rally base drop. So I believe this would be it right here. I'm going to put this on the leg out and make this a little easier for you to see. So now, as I mentioned in one of the other videos, the radar screen is always going to be giving you your local time. And if you have your charts set on exchange time, you will have to adjust accordingly. And you can see here, this shows 1:30 instead of 2:30. And it shows you a supply pattern is found. And so that would be how you would identify that on your chart. So hopefully that explains to you how you could find single patterns. And we'll be talking about more complex stuff in future videos. So in this segment, we're going to talk about trend change pattern searches using the scan tool and the radar screen. Okay, so I have the standard scan tool loaded here. And if we go look at the settings, you will see here that I am looking for a rally base drop, drop base drop. I've got that set to true, and they can't be separated by more than 4 candles. And then I've got a drop base rally, rally base rally. That's true. And I've got the separation on that also set to 4. I do want to show you this over here under style. For pattern time, I've found it's easier if you match that to the 24-hour clock, because that's what you see when you put a vertical line over here. And since the radar screen is in local time, I did set my chart up to be local time instead of exchange time. And you can see that I have the standard chart tool loaded. In both cases, you have to, in order for the patterns to show correctly, the settings for the patterns have to be identical. And at this point, I have all the pattern settings set to default. And let me just show you where those are real quick here. So when you look down here to pattern settings, these are all set to default. And it is the same way on the chart tool as well. So you can see here that I have a pattern that shows on 9/10/21. Now understand, the scan tool is going back and it's finding you the most recent occurrence of that pattern, and that pattern could now be a broken band. So I did have broken bands turned on my chart. You can see these magenta bands here. Now, this is a really good example here on the Canadian dollar because it says a supply pattern is found, right? And when I put the line here at the 1400 mark, like it says here, I can see that I have a drop base drop. But this pattern here is not a rally base drop, it's a rally base rally. But if I look here, because I have overlapping bands turned off, in other words, if bands overlap, I do not see them. The tool did not draw this, but the scan tool actually sees it. So if I go and I turn on the overlapping bands, and I will show you where that is. It's right here. I'm going to change this to true, and then you'll actually see that that is a valid pattern. So now you can see, so when I turn the overlapping bands on, that this does work out to be a rally base drop followed by a drop base drop. So that does meet our supply pattern found. So that's how this works. So you may decide that, hey, if I have a pattern on the chart and it's an older pattern and it is already, the band's already broken, I don't even care to see it. So, you know, if you just go and turn your broken bands off, then you wouldn't even see those, and you would only see when you go to your chart. If you don't see anything, then you know that happened in the past and you're not interested in it. So you can go turn that off. But you might, if you're looking at some stuff, historical information to assess your trading plan or whatever, you might want to turn those on. So that's how you can do the compound patterns for the trend change. And we'll be talking about some ways to put in custom patterns in a future video. In this segment, we're going to talk about max separation, specifically around the different trend chains patterns in the scan tool. So you can see here that on BP, the tool identified a pattern, and I have it at default settings. And so you can see we have a rally base drop followed by a drop base drop. And so when we're looking at max separation, we're looking at how many candles can there be between the patterns. And where we set that is right here, max separation, and so you can make it different for the different pattern combinations. So you can have the rally base drop, drop base drop, be a different number of max candles of separation versus the drop base rally, rally base rally. So that is a good feature as you're looking for trend change patterns, because you may want to have those be different for different assets and intervals. And that is how you adjust the max separation. In this section, we're going to talk about pattern settings in the scan tool. So based on your trade plan, more than likely you will not have the pattern settings set at the default values. So you may want have some different requirements. And so when you make changes to the radar screen, and we have videos that explain these different settings, but so when you change these pattern settings here in the radar screen, you can either change them for all symbols, or you could change it for just one symbol that you want to have a different set of pattern rules for, and that's fine. But when you do that, just know that if your pattern settings aren't the same on your chart over here, what you see here might not match your chart. So that's always a good first place to start if things aren't matching and lining up. So that explains a little bit about the pattern settings and the fact that you have full flexibility to change those in the radar screen so that you can get the pattern alerts that coincide with your trade plan. In this segment, we're going to talk about how to dump the settings from the scan tool to a file. So to do that, you go into your settings. If you edit all and you go in and customize this, and you set your dump settings right here, dump settings in use, set to true, to a file, set to true, and to dump them to a file that is a CSV so it'll open in Excel. So I've already previously dumped these files and I don't want them to be dumped again, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to false. And this is your base file name, and this shows you where they will be stored. So it's on your C drive in Chart Tools Data, and then in front of the file name it'll put Scan Tool Settings Used For, and then it'll tell you the details on the asset that it dumped for. So if you do not have this folder, you will get an error. So if you store your information in a different location, you will have to change this path. Now, you can also dump the settings for a chart if you want to make a comparison. So if you go in here and edit, and then this is down at the bottom, dump settings in use. I've already dumped this file, so I've turned this back to false, but you would set that to true, dump it to a file, and again it's going to dump it to the same location, but it's going to tell you that it's Chart Tool Standard settings, and then I dumped it to a CSV. So let me show you what those files look like. So you can see here I'm in my Chart Tools data, and you can see that I have my scan tool settings for BP, MES, SPY, IBM, the Canadian dollar, and Costco. And then I have the chart settings for BP, and it gives you the asset and the interval. And then the back half of this is actually the information on the date and time when the file was created to help you keep track of things. So as you look here at the different settings that are in the chart tool versus the scan tool, first thing you notice is that you can tell that it's the same asset and interval, and you can look at the date timestamps and see that they're very close to one another. You can see that there was no OSF files loaded, which that can definitely alter your settings. And you can see that the ATR lengths are the same. Now, these settings here do not impact the pattern matching. So I just highlighted those in yellow. You won't see those in this file over here. But all these settings which do impact the pattern matching will be there. So if you wanted to do a quick comparison, you can just click right here where it says R17, starting at the base size. And if you hit Control Shift End and then Control C, that will copy those. And then you can just go over here and click right here next to the R17 and hit Control V and paste. And that'll allow you to quickly compare your settings and make sure that they're the same between your chart tool and your scan tool. And again, I have some other settings here that do not pertain to the pattern matching, and I've got those highlighted in yellow. So this allow band expansions doesn't line up like the other ones. It's right down here, but it is one that would impact the pattern matching. And then these are all just specific to the chart tool itself. So hopefully that helps you understand what you get when you dump a file and how you can use that to compare the settings between your scan tool and your chart in case you have something that doesn't seem to look right. In this segment, I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use the scan tool in the scanner. So I have a scan here, and I'm going to go down. I've already run it for the sake of time, but I'm going to go to Customize. And I'm in the Scan Criteria, and you can see right here that the scan tool has been loaded as part of the logic, and I'm just looking for a pattern to be found. So pattern greater than 0. And so if you open this up, you can see that I was looking for the trend change patterns, the default ones. Use the default settings. And what you need to do, let me scroll down here, is when you set this up, you need to make sure that you go down to the bottom and tell it what interval you want to use for the scan, because it doesn't know. I think it defaults to daily. Okay, so then let me show you if you wanted to add this from scratch, how you would do that. So let me minimize this. So we would go here to select criteria, hit the drop down, and then we're going to go down to indicator, and then just hit S. And you will see right here that you've got the scan tool standard. And so you would just add that, and you could make the appropriate changes to it. And if you want to get rid of something, you just exit out, which I will do for this case. And we've already run this. And so here's the symbols that met the criteria, and you can just when you click on this here, it shows you the results, and it shows you what settings were used if you need to find out. And you can also save this into a custom symbol list, which I did not do. We'll have to maybe show you guys how to do that in a future video. But what I did is I just cut and paste some of the results up here into this radar screen, and you can see that every one of them, a pattern was found, and this is all set to default settings as well. So these would have to match in order for the patterns to be found. And I've got it linked here. So let's see, 920. Let's see if we got enough data. It's still loading some data. But let's see here, 920. And let's see, at 9:45. So 9:20. Whoop, I've got this on a 60-minute. I got to change this to a 15-minute chart so everything will line up. So let me do that real quick. Okay, I got that loaded and identified the pattern. So let me just blow this up a little bit to help you see things. So you can see these are in magenta because they have been violated. But you can see you have a rally base drop. And then, so you've got a drop base drop. And this was a gap down. So you can see they had a pretty good gap down. So that would be your supply trend change pattern. Rally base drop, drop base drop at 9:45, and you can see that here, so you can find that. And again, these patterns, when it finds them, it doesn't know if price has violated those patterns. It's just a pattern finding feature. So, you know, probably you want to look for the pattern dates that are closer to current date because they're the ones that are going to be most likely not to be violated. You could even maybe put some logic in your scan about pattern date. So, and this is really good for scanning a bunch of stocks, whereas the scan feature doesn't work that well on futures. Those you're better off just individually loading into your radar screen. So hopefully this will help give you some ideas about how to find different trading opportunities. Now that we're on the web page, sndsoftware.com, we're going to log in. And we're going to do a sign up. And we want to sign up with email. The password and say sign up. So, and you'll see the success. Your request has been sent, and they will notify you via email when your request has been approved.